Hello everybody, welcome to this week's Two Saints podcast show with myself, Mark C, and my co-host, Mark H. Hi Mark, how you doing?
Everything's going well, mate. I hope that, the Saints supporting fraternity are looking after each other and looking forward to Saturday if they're going to Everton.
Absolutely.
Next Sunday when we're at home to Manchester United.
Cannot wait. Just to remind you all, you can contact us via our email address, the Two Saints Podcast Show at outlook.com, for questions or items you'd like to hear in future shows. You can listen to the radio show on Fiesta 95 FM in Southampton and via onlineradiobox.com. Also, the Two Saints Podcast Show is now available via Spotify, SoundCloud, Overcast, Acast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music and Podbean, or via our Facebook page, The Two Saints Show, and our YouTube channel, The Two Saints Podcast Show. Yep, so coming up in this week's Two Saints podcast, we have we've got the preview of the season ahead with other Saints fans, Two Saints review of Saints 1 Athletic Club Bilbao 3, Saints Club news, other football news, Saints transfer gossip, and the new addition to the Two Saints show and podcast, Saints Roundtable. So we'll be bringing that to you very shortly. So we're going to take a very short break, and when we come back, we'll be starting the first section of the show, which includes Saints 1 Athletic Club Bilbao 3.
It's the two Marks, C&H, on the Two Saints Show, Fiesta 95 FM.
For the first part of this week's podcast, we got together a group of Saints fans to get their views before the season starts. So thank you to Andy, Nigel, Dave, Hugh, Barry, Darren, Nathan and Jamie, and here are the best bits of those interviews.
This is part of our Saints preview for the new 21-22 season. First up, we have Alby Bartlett. Basically, Midland Saints travels to all of the away games. Just give me your thoughts, hopes, aspirations, fears heading into the new season. I mean, obviously, there's a week still to go. And I'd just like to hear them. And you can give me your thoughts on Danny Ings and everything going on at the minute.
I'm cautiously optimistic. I think one of the problems last season, it was a very long season. Romeo was a big miss after the Leeds game. I mean, we completely lost the midfield without Romeo. And the way I look at it, there's probably 7 or 8 teams around, the likes of Norwich, Brentford, Watford, Newcastle, Burnley, Crystal Palace and Wolves, who are also going to find it a tough season. And realistically, we just have to finish above 3 out of that group of 7 teams. Some of the recruitment has been good. I mean, it's been good. It's been good that we've got a left back in, because much as I loved Bertrand, I mean, I thought he was an exceptional player over the time that he was with us. But the past season, either he's lost it or his heart wasn't in it, or maybe a mix of both. And even though they're young, we have got some backup players coming from Chelsea that will help shore up the defence.
I mean, obviously you're fairly hopeful for the season in terms of, there's a lot of teams that are going to be under threat of relegation. I mean, you've made that fairly clear. And I suppose you're expecting a mid-table finish. I'm just interested to know, are you basing this also on the fact that you're expecting players still to come in?
Well, I'm hoping that we're going to have 1 or 2 players come in. I mean, Danny Ings is going to be a big miss. He's been an utterly exceptional player. Well, I think Harry Kane is possibly a better finish than Ings.
I mean, are you? So I'm going to nail you down on this. Are you expecting a striker to come in?
Yes, I am expecting a striker to come in.
That's good.
I think we should be looking at somebody in the region of 10 million or so, or maybe somebody on loan. I would love to get Tammy Abraham on loan, but his wages would probably be... we certainly couldn't afford to buy him.
Andrew, I just want to know in terms of cup runs, what's the expectation there? And I want the position that Saints are going to finish in at the end of the season.
Well, okay, prediction for position, I think 14th. I think we will probably keep our heads above water most of the season. Like we always do, we'll probably have a nervous patch around January and February where we wonder where the points will come from and then rally a bit. League Cup, I'd like to see us do better. It's just that historically, apart from 2017, we've never really made the most of actually the tournament. It's possibly the most likely one that we could win. And FA Cup, well, we've had our run to the semi-final. That won't come again for another probably 5 or 6 seasons. I mean, again, it all depends who we get to play. We haven't played Manchester United in the Cup for a long time, so they're bound to be coming up sooner or later, which means an early exit. But, if we can be solid in the league and get at least one decent cup run, that's probably a decent season for us.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you there, Andrew. Seems we've lost Mark for the moment, so I think that's probably a good place to wrap things up. So thank you very much for joining us, Andrew.
Okay.
Really appreciate it. Thanks very much. And take care of yourself, and we'll see you when the season starts.
Yeah, okay. See you then.
And I'm joined by Nigel McCallan this evening. And Nigel, I do believe, used to steward the away coaches, Nigel. Is that correct from what Mark's told me?
Not for a few years.
New season ahead of us, Nigel. What are your aspirations for the season?
Well, aspirations, it's probably wishful thinking, but I want a stress-free season. I just hope we have a sort of consistent season in the league. And what I mean by consistent, I don't mean consistent badly. I want to just, us to play, well, and look like we want to win matches. I'm not looking for us to win the Premier League. Always a nice thought, but reality not going to happen, is it?
No.
And I don't think we'll be. I don't think we're going to be anywhere near Europe this season. So it's probably a stock answer of mid-table finish, and good runs in the cup.
Excellent.
Which I know is an easy answer and probably a sit on the fence answer.
So I'm going to try and nail you down a bit now. What was your take on the Danny Ings situation?
I don't know. Disappointed, surprised. They've presumably offered Saints £30 million. Are you going to turn down £30 million for a forward in his last season? He's got 12 months left on his contract. No, equally, he's our 20-goal a season striker. So disappointed it's so last minute. I hope Saints have got something up their sleeve. When he was playing well, he was our best player because, he wasn't just a forward. He covered a lot of ground. He'll come back into midfield, etc., and pick up the ball, as well as score the goals.
So where do you think Saints are actually going to finish this season? Where would you like to see them finish?
Well, let's be realistic. I'd like to see them finish 10th, but I suspect it's probably going to be more like, hopefully, a minimum of 13th, 14th. I don't want to flirt with relegation. My fears are we have a bad start to the season because, we've got arguably got a tough start to the season.
And what do you make of the recruitment so far, the transfer window? Happy with the transfer window so far or a little bit disappointed?
No, I'm reasonably happy. But the French full-back stroke win-back seems decent. And the 2 youngsters they got from Chelsea seem to have great reputations. But have not seen them play. You need to see them play for the club, and then we'll see how it goes. I'm pleased to see some of the departures. To be honest, it's good to get Hoyt off our books at long last, and Lamina, and we've also offloaded some of the. Well, I want to say youngsters, but they're not really youngsters anymore because some of them have been around for quite a long time and hadn't really gone in to be permanently out on loan. So it's probably good to have a bit of a clearance out there.
Yeah, I think you've got to get to
perhaps a bit sad to see the. I was just going to say probably a little bit sorry to see the Swiss midfielder to go. What's his name? Yankovic, who got sent off at Man United last season because apparently he was meant to be a prospect, but it sounds like he had a bit of an ego, or his agent had a bit of ego. I think it's probably possibly a few more players to go. Wouldn't be the greatest surprise to see Shane Long go with it. We've still got Elanusi knocking around, who in some ways I don't think he's necessarily had a run of games to make his mark, but equally, does he really suit Rel's style? So it wouldn't surprise me if he goes out on loan again, or somebody comes in to buy him, but we'll see.
So do you think we're going to get a direct replacement for Danny Ings, or do you think they're going to try and get a couple of players in and maybe change the philosophy slightly? Is Ralph going to alter things a little bit to bring somebody in a bit different?
Good question. I think, as we sort of mentioned earlier, I don't think there's going to be a direct replacement for Danny Ings. I know we've been linked with this Alan Armstrong, but I also see he's been strongly linked with Crystal Palace now. He's meant to be our main target, allegedly.
Absolutely. So just to round things off, just finish things up, optimistic for the season ahead, or cautiously optimistic, or slightly worried?
Cautiously optimistic from the point of view, a lot of the squad we've got is still the same squad which played well in the early part of the first half of last season. Minus Danny Ings, and that's our concern, isn't it? Where the goals coming from? You need Adam scoring more regularly, more goals from midfield. Hopefully Nathan Teller will take off, but he's still a youngish lad, so we will see. You need Theo Walcott to hit the back of the net regularly, don't you? And know when to take a shot or when to pass the ball. Yeah, as I say, I'm just fearful of a poor start. Yeah, I think a note of caution as well. We always tend to be relatively poor starters to a season. I don't know why. Let's change that this season though, and actually start well.
I think we've both summed everything up brilliantly there, Nigel. Yep. So, where do you think they're going to finish?
Dream of finishing 10th, but as I said earlier, I think we're looking 13th and 14th, which I think is hopefully realistic. I don't want to be involved in a relegation fight. I think Norwich will struggle again. Now they're back in the Premier League. Newcastle potentially, they're still a club with problems. In Watford, will they struggle? I don't know. As long as there's three teams below us, I suppose I'd be happy at the end of the day. But as I say, I just want to enjoy the football more this season than perhaps I did for the second half of last season.
I think we've covered everything brilliantly there, Nigel. Thanks ever so much for joining me this evening. So thank you very much to Nigel McAllen for joining me and giving us a little bit more on our previews for the upcoming season for the Two Saints Show. Thank you very much, Nigel. Great to see you.
Yeah, my pleasure, Mark. Catch up with you one day.
Yes, definitely. Take care of yourself, Brittany. Speak soon.
Cheers.
Thank you.
We have Dave Isles with us, and basically Dave has a season ticket. He's also a regular traveller to away games. Basically, Dave, thanks for joining us. And really, all I want to hear is your thoughts as we head into the new season.
I've been watching Saints since 1966. I don't expect too much. The cup runs that we've been on has been great, both at home and abroad.
I mean, have you got any sort of hopes or any sort of expectations as we go into the season?
My philosophy is, as long as we finish 17th or above, I'm happy with that.
I like it. We start at a low base,
exactly,
Dave, yeah? And we build it up.
Anything better than 17th is a bonus.
As we go into the season, Dave, I mean, I'm sure you'd agree it is a tough start. I mean, from sort of the first 6 games, how many points, would you hope to pick up in those 6 games?
And you just well play the difficult ones as early as possible, because they're going to be finding their way as well as we are. So to a certain extent, we're on a level footing playing these teams. I mean, forget about the past. Okay, we haven't won at Everton, but it's a bit like in the Euros. I was saying to people, once we got the team away, don't let them have any newspapers, ban the TV, because all it was banging on about 1976 all the time. That's all in the past. Let's look towards the future. Let's start a new record. So I'm quite optimistic that we're going to win at least one of those games. I don't know which one.
No, that's good. That's good opening gambit. And the thing that I was going to ask you, Dave, was, and this is the final, do you see Saints finishing in the table? Right, okay.
I'm not going to say top 6 or top 10.
Fair enough.
I feel confident we won't get relegated, because I think Hasenhuttl is a good manager. We'll have some down days, but we'll also have some good days. I mean, at the start of last season, we played some really good football. Yeah, and it was only mainly because of the injuries. There were a couple of other things. And I know injuries happen to any club, throughout the season, but they were quite horrendous, the injuries that we had, around Christmas time last season. So if we can avoid that, I think he'll get us playing good football again.
Good. So one final question then, because I always ask this question. I mean, so in terms of the cups, do you see us doing a semi-final run again this season, or again, something maybe in the league?
I always think there's nothing wrong with a good cup win, a good cup run. Some people disagree with me, but I always think if you're winning matches in a cup run, that's got to breed confidence throughout the rest of the team. It also gives the manager a chance to blood a couple of youngsters or a couple of fringe players during those games. But it all depends who you're drawn against. I think we had a good run last season, get to the semi-final. Yeah, let's hope we can have a good cup run.
I agree, Dave. I believe that a cup run does bring confidence to your team.
Yeah, but I think they're important to the club.
All then it leaves me to do then is to wrap up the interview and say thanks for joining us, Dave.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
So, everybody, we're joined by Hugh Bartlett. Thanks for joining.
Thank you very much for having me, Mark. Always a pleasure.
Right, let's get the difficult question out of the way first. What did you make of the Danny Ings departure?
Well, obviously it was quite heartbreaking. It wasn't anything that I expected. I thought if he was going to leave, it would be for a top six club, or at least a club capable of winning trophies. And so I'm very disappointed.
So do you think they're going to bring in a replacement for Danny Ings, or do you think they're going to look at other options?
I do think a replacement will be brought in. Whether it will be someone up to or even close to Danny Ings' level of football is a different question. I am very concerned, admittedly.
So looking to the season coming up now, what are you expecting for Saints this season? Where would you like to see them finish?
Well, unfortunately, every single year, the standards drop slightly with Saints, don't they? We just have to focus on, first of all, getting to about 20 points at Christmas. And it's all about survival, unfortunately, isn't it? Yeah. It's just about clinging in there until some form of investment comes from a new owner. Then hopefully we can set new targets. But until then, it could be a couple of challenging years ahead.
So what do you make of the first six games? Obviously very difficult. Everton, we don't tend to win out. Newcastle, we don't tend to win out. Got Man City as well. Man United. So pretty tough, isn't it, the first six?
I don't like to look into pre-season too much, but Everton did actually lose 4-0 today against Manchester United. So you might say I'm being a bit too ambitious, but I reckon we can go in there and get a result from that.
So obviously, in light of the fact that obviously we know Danny Ings, obviously we're looking a little bit lightweight up front. Ralph's quite confident we're going to get players in, or we're going to be all right. Where do you think Saints realistically are going to finish this season? Or where would you like to see Saints?
I think realistically it's going to be about, as obviously as high up the table as possible, but I think it's going to be about 15th or 16th.
So the last question for me, unless Mark's got anything to add, I don't know if he has, but if he has, he'll add it after I've finished. So last question for me, are you optimistic this season, cautiously optimistic, or slightly concerned?
Slightly concerned, but as things stand, I do think there are definitely 3 teams worse than us. At this current time, I do think we've got more than enough quality to stay up, if that's anything to go by.
Okay, brilliant. Right, that's all for me. So I'll hand you over to Mark in case Mark's got anything to add.
What I was going to ask you was, just because I'm interested, I mean, do you think we can look forward to maybe a cup run? Because obviously at the end of the day, we all know that going into a new season, our best chance is a cup run. So do you envisage either in the League Cup or the FA Cup us doing a semi-final, run to the semi-final or something like that?
What I would say is Ralph always takes the cup seriously. I've been to so I do think as long as the draws are relatively kind and we avoid all the big boys, why can't we go to the quarterfinal or semi-final in a cup? We're not going to win a trophy without facing a top side. So I think at the moment, winning a cup is definitely a long way off where we are as a club. But I do think we could possibly enjoy out a trip at Wembley if the draw's kind to us.
Hugh, thanks for joining us, mate.
Thank you very much. All right, all the best, guys.
Thank you very much, Hugh. Take care.
Cheers.
Bye.
We're now with Barry Webb, who famously wrote the book about Kelvin Davis, A Celebration. Your hopes for the new season. And basically, at the end of the interview, I'm going to ask you where you think we're going to finish come the end of the campaign. So bear that in mind, okay? The floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah. Okay. I'm looking forward with a little optimism. That optimism is mainly born out of the fact that, number one, we are looking forwards. Latter half of last season was really awful, but we've had movement in the playing squad. So I'm glad that we've brought in some good, they look good players like Perot, who I thought on Wednesday looked with good potential, we'll say, you know. I like Salisu, who's not a new player in the sense that he's just been brought in, but I think he's now beginning to settle into the squad. The other new player, Tino Livramento, I mean, there's been a bit of Hyman, his record at Chelsea, remains to be seen. I think the squad looks wider and slightly stronger than it did last year. I mean, we had a bout of injuries. You know, the squad just wasn't deep enough or wide enough. Yeah, I think with perhaps the addition of a proven striker, I think they brought in some good people already. There's also the other young lad who's coming from Chelsea. So they're going with their philosophy of bringing youngsters in and developing them and developing them as part of the squad. So I'm feeling sort of mildly optimistic. Yeah, it is a very tough 6, home and away. Yeah. I'm always of a mind I'd rather get those sort of games out of the way. But we're also, at the start of the season, if we've got a full fit squad, then we can be a better match than against some of those big teams like Man U than maybe later in the season when we have to play them with a depleted squad. But the other factor, and I might just be straying into the sort of wishing what might happen, some of those sides that will be playing, I think Everton and West Ham, are playing in Europe. And if you look back, I know looking forward, but if you look back at the history of some of those teams, ourselves included, when we got into Europe, Burnley got to Europe and others, their Premier League form actually dipped. Yeah. So I'm not grasping at straws as such, but I'm hoping that could be an influence and we might be able to do it.
I'm going to have to wrap the interview up. So what I'm going to have to ask you is, there's 2 parts to this, really, right? I mean, going into the season, we always know that our best chance is a cup run, right? So I'd like your thoughts on whether, you know, we can do anything in the League Cup or the FA Cup. And also, just to finish, you know, where is Saints going to finish in the table at the end of the day?
Right. In the Cup, it's always been in the lap of the gods around the draw. So if you get, last season we got Shrewsbury and everybody was very excited because that was winnable. Then we got Arsenal and nobody thought that was winnable and they were wrong. So, you know, cup matches I think are very different. But I will say that more than anything, it's going to be the cup runs rely on that depth of squad. I think I'm feeling sort of reasonably confident that we could finish mid-table around 12th, 13th, 4th. I'm not sure. I'd like to think we could finish 12, 13 or 14. But I always go back. You remember Dave Jones?
Yes, of course.
He said, this was in a pre-season forum. He was asked the question, where do you think we might finish next season? And he said, first, I have to start with thinking we're going to win the Premier League. And then I adjust my view as time goes on. I thought I was great at it. Incidentally, can I do a little plug?
Yes, of course. Always.
Next, we've got a new item in the programme, in the history section of the programme next year. We've called it Once Known at This Address. It's actually about players who played for both clubs.
All right.
The first outing for the United game will be one of my all-time favourites that I feature, and that's Danny Wallace. And I've been in touch with Danny, and he's helped me compile this draft. And we'll go through the season. So West Ham, Ian Dowie might figure, and so on and so forth. So look out for that.
Thanks for taking the trouble.
Thank you.
It's very much appreciated, mate, I promise you.
Thank you very much.
It's just good to see you again.
All the best to the two Marks.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
So I'm joined this evening by my good friends, Saints fans, Northern Ireland fans, you name it. Darren, Jamie, Nathan, great to have you along. I just want to get your thoughts as we head into the new season. And you're going to kick us off first, Darren. So just go ahead. Any concerns going into the new season, given that we do have a tough start? I think the first 6 opening fixtures are really tough. When you look at
first 6 is going to set the, what's the word I'm looking for?
The tone for the rest
of the season, I think.
Just give me your thoughts on the season ahead. Whether you think we'll have a good cup run or, and then obviously I'm going to finish with the ultimate question: where are we going to finish in the table?
Probably okay. I think there's 3 teams worse than us.
Yeah, so do I.
I think, but I honestly think that will stay up. As I said to you, Mark, yesterday, see the 80s and 90s, we had no great footballers apart from the Tessier who single-handedly, but see players like Ward Price, players like him who play for the shirt, like Leon Cockerell, all the cardboard, but they were brilliant for us. Remember that season when 8 matches were 1 in a row or something?
Because a lot of players in the team as well have been there for a few years, like Romeo, Ward Price, obviously Bednarek, McCarthy, Forster. You know what I mean? It's a good core there. Even Adams has been there 2 years now. At least there is still a decent core there.
There is a decent core there.
So anyway, a cup run. Any chance of a decent cup run again? I mean, semi-finals last season, the FA Cup.
Depends what the draw, doesn't it?
No.
Yeah, that's it.
If we get Man City in the 3rd round, you're sort of...
All I want to know is, do you have any sort of hopes for maybe a cup run and where...
It's not really
you're going to give individual answers here, right? Where are we going to finish in the table? I'll go to Nathan. Actually, I want to hear from you. Where do you think about things at the minute? And I mean, where do you see us finishing this season, Nathan?
Well, hopefully we'll not get relegated or anything, but it's just because Danny Ings is away now. He's scored so many goals for us. He's just class. So now he's away to Villa. Ward Price is apparently linked with Aston Villa now. But
I
think we'll have young talent though. Nathan Tell seems to be doing really well. I think he should start.
Okay. The thing is, do you trust the people that are running our football club to replace Danny Ings' goals? It's not just his goals; it's his assists.
Yeah.
Right. So Darren first.
Right.
Where are we going to finish?
All joking aside, I think honestly 14th, comfortably, 48 points.
Nathan, what do you think?
I think we might finish hopefully 12th or 13th maybe.
I think 16th.
We are going to have to look to somebody, and
I think Shea this year. I think he'll step up more because everyone goes on about him missing chances. He had more goal involvements last year than Foden did. I still think he's a good player. Obviously, he's not a goal scorer, which is why we need someone beside. I'd really like Shea. All the play goes through him as well. You know what I mean? He does all the donkey work.
In terms of the cup runs, anything at all? Any thoughts?
I don't know. It's just we'll see how the season starts off. You know what I mean?
What would cause you to worry? In terms of, right, I said about the opening 6 fixtures.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. If we only got, say, 1 point from the opening 6 fixtures, would you worry?
I don't know. I don't know if it'd be worried. It depends if the performances. It depends on the performances, especially because I suppose we are playing a few good teams. If we're just going out without a whimper, then that's when you get concerned. But them first 6 games are hard, and it wouldn't be like us
pick up barely any points from them. You know what I mean? Like historically, so
their first 6 games are hard for anybody.
Yeah.
So anyway, apart from just to finish with so you're saying 16th, Nathan's saying 12th. What are you saying?
14th.
Well, all it leaves me to do is just basically to say thanks very much, for taking part in the interview.
It's Mark C and Mark H. Mark my word, they're here with everything in the Two Saints Show.
So the Two Saints review now of Saints 1, Athletic Club Bilbao 3. Yeah, real acid test ahead of the start of the season. This is the one that sort of would tell us where we're at, really, I guess. Saints suffer final pre-season defeat. Ralph Hasenhüttl, it was the expected tough test, and Walcott, intense challenge will help us. Yeah, I think I'd probably agree with that. It certainly was an intense challenge, which we didn't quite live up to, Mark.
No, I mean, I had a few friends who obviously went to the game, and they effectively said that the game had finished at 2-0 at half-time. The words powder puff up front, disjointed was another word that was used to me, and that was the team as a whole. The person that I spoke to accepts that it was more or less a second string team, but again, it was it's difficult, isn't it, Mark? Because we sort of talked about it, and we decided that this was probably the toughest of the pre-season games.
Yeah, it was. But having said that, and in hindsight as well, having thought about this a bit more, do you think that as fans, and not just me and you, but I mean generally, do you think as fans we're a little bit naive in the fact that we read an awful lot into pre-season games? Do you think we read too much into it, or do you think we don't read into it enough? I mean, do you think they really are a good indicator of where you are at the start of the season, or not?
All right. What I would say to you is this: is you have the build up throughout the pre-season, right? And initially, it's getting legs moving in games, and getting the minutes into your legs, basically, is what they call it. And everything else, building the fitness, sharpness, everything else that goes with that. But by the time you're coming round to your last friendly, Mark, right? And admittedly, okay, we only played 4 friendlies, so this was our 5th friendly, right? But when you're coming round to your final friendly, right? And this is the point I want to make to you is this was effectively like the majority of the players were second string players, right? So you would have thought that the likes of Shane Long and, Omafemi would have went out there with a point to prove, and the other individuals who are not first team picks. And, from what I was told, the reverse was true. Admittedly, it did change. It did change in the second half. When Liverento, Tino come on and Theo Walcott come on, and they actually pushed
an instant impact.
Yeah, well, they actually pushed Tino further forward on and basically they pushed Jan Valerie into the midfield, and from what I was told, it seemed to work wonders. Albeit that he said that it was probably a little bit, too late in the day. But at the end of the day, it looked better. But he did make the point that at the end of the day, this effectively was a second string side, and really at the end of the day, you're looking for them, to be pushing the first team, because Mark, the realization is these people are going to be sat on the bench come Saturday, tomorrow. Yep. Yeah, tomorrow, when the real thing starts.
Yeah.
And you're sat there going to me, does it really matter? Of course it matters. I mean, under normal circumstances, and I don't know why Ralph decided to go down this route, right? But normally, a manager plays his first team Well, in the final friendly of the pre-season.
That was kind of my point. That was kind of my point. Is it a case of the fans take it too seriously and the managers don't? Or, because my view on it's the same as yours. Why on earth he's not playing his strongest team, his first team, ahead of the opening game of the season? I can't fathom that.
Right. Well, the thing is,
like when we play in cup competitions and we don't play the
normally the manager will play his strongest side in the last friendly going into the new season. Absolutely. But obviously Ralph decided that he wanted to do, I'm assuming, a little more protection towards the first team. It's even more interesting, Mark, when you remember that, they were playing a game 24 hours later in Liverpool. They had a friendly against Liverpool 24 hours later. Just let that sink in as well.
Yeah, I mean, I get the protecting the players, because at the end of the day, it's just come to light today, and I was reading it as well. Did you know James Ward-Prowse has been training all week?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Apparently he wasn't fit enough to start the other day, but he's been training all week. But if he's been training all week, he was fit enough to start last weekend.
He started training on Tuesday, from what I read.
Yeah, but they've been saying he's been training all week. Now, if he's been training all week, a week is 7 days in my book. That means he was fit last weekend.
Well, but anyway, yeah.
Strange one. So yeah, I thought disappointing, to be fair, for the last game. Could have ended the pre-season unbeaten. We didn't. And the other thing that I kind of made me sit up and take notice was the fact that Alex McCarthy in goal, we concede 3 soft goals again. Can't be a coincidence, surely.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's strange.
I have to say that it was fairly lame from what I was told. But at the end of the day, we go in hopefully with a little bit of optimism. Obviously, it's been a busy week at St Mary's this week, and we're going to come on to that in a minute. And hopefully, we can go into the game tomorrow a little bit on a wing and a prayer, but hopefully with the personnel drastically changed and everything else.
Well, apart from any injuries Everton had, they've also been hit by a raft of COVID, Mark. So quite a lot of players missing because of that as well. It's come to light.
Yeah, they've only got 5 missing, but the thing is miraculously, Ronaldinho, or not Ronaldinho, Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin are both going to be fit. Then the only one that's going to be missing from the COVID that's of any real note is Rodriguez.
Anyway, we'll see what happens there.
Or Mr. James, as they call him.
So yeah, we will get to that. Anyway, moving on now to Saints Club news. So we're going to take a short break first, and then we'll come back and do Saints Club news for you.
Fiesta 95 FM, the Two Saints Show.
Welcome back, everybody. So, Saints Club news. Armstrong is a Saint. Armstrong at Saints. Style is the perfect fit. Southampton Football Club, Chelsea, Armando Broja loan deal. Broja reveals key influences. B-team report, Salisbury 1, Saints 2. Women's report, Saints complete unbeaten pre-season. Saints 2 wear Hummel rainbow shirt this weekend along with Everton. Take part in Saints Foundation's charity walk. Lionesses to make St Mary's return, and that takes us up to the end of the Saints Club news. So start with the first article, Mark, and that is that Adam Armstrong is a Saint. Again, probably one of the worst kept secrets of the transfer window.
Well, no, I mean, the thing is I'm just thankful that they've got, hopefully a frontline striker over the line. And probably from the choices that were muted, it was probably the second best choice, or it was up there because obviously, Tammy Abraham got muted. Obviously, it's a bridge too far for Saints. We all kind of knew that. I kind of knew that if we're going to get someone at the top end of the wish list, let's say, it was going to be Adam Armstrong. Yep. I'm glad now that it's done that we've got him. Let's see what he can do. Yep. He's got some big boots to fill. And the unfortunate thing for him is there's going to be an expectation for him to hit the ground running. But let's hope he can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's funny, Mark, actually, because I'm not expecting him to make a huge impact straight away. But a couple of things that have stood out for me is apparently he quite likes a debut goal, so that's an interesting one. But another interesting stat I picked up on that a lot of people haven't, and we do cover stats now and then, and I know stats don't mean a lot, but I found this one quite an interesting stat. So across all competitions in England in 1920, do you know the top 2 goal scorers were in England?
Danny Ings.
No, the first one with 44 goals was Adam Armstrong. Yeah. The second with 41 goals was Harry Kane. Do you know where Danny Ings was? 4th with 38. How about that for a stat?
Yeah, no, it's pretty good going.
Doesn't mean an awful lot, I know, but I just found out an interesting stat that nobody really picked up on.
I was much more interested in the fact that, and I picked up on it, but somebody obviously told me that he mentioned it in an interview or something, but I don't know if any Saints fans know, but he's basically doing Alan Shearer's journey in reverse.
He absolutely is. Yep.
Because obviously Newcastle, Blackburn, Saints, and Alan went Saints, Blackburn, Newcastle.
Yeah, it's ironic that another Geordie's gone the other way because Armstrong is a Geordie. So there we go. Interesting, that one. But yeah, anyway, moving on now. Our announcement that Southampton Football Club have signed Amarjo Broja on loan from Chelsea. Looks quite a talent, Mark. Got a bit of pace about him, 6'2". Gives us something extra. Definitely a different option.
I mean, I think for me, it's probably something that I've been credited for. I've certainly mentioned it in the pod that there's a bridge or certainly a gap between, our 2 frontline strikers and the next in line. Because, like I said, unfortunately, us Saturday gone there, we played Shane Long and Michael Omafemi together, and at the end of the day, they didn't find the net. Service was going in, but. The fact that we've signed this young lad from Chelsea, I mean, for me, it kind of bridges the gap, or it looks on paper, certainly, that it bridges that gap between, our first 2 picks in terms of the strikers. So definitely. I welcome him. The only thing I would say, Mark, is and I understand, obviously, they've got that offload Shane Long and offload, Michael Omafemi before they can do any other striker business. But I would have liked to have seen somebody come in a permanent, but I can live with a season-long loan, Yep. I just hope that he can make us, a good impact. That's really what I'm looking for, a good impact in the sense that, if one of the strikers was to get injured for any period of time, he can step in and do his job.
Well, he's come to us off the back of 2-2 for Chelsea in their pre-season friendlies. He scored twice off the back of that before he came to us. So he was scoring before he arrived. So let's hope he continues if he does get a chance. We certainly need somebody, as you said, to bridge that gap. But 2 goals in 2 games for Chelsea pre-season is not bad. And from what I've seen of him, which is very little, he seems quite useful. But time will tell. The acid test is when you play in the Premier League, isn't it, as we all know. So moving on. The key influences for him. He's actually listed the 2 Ronaldos as key influences, which is quite interesting. I know you alluded to that as well, Mark. Quite an interesting way of looking at things.
I just like the fact that he mentioned, the original Ronaldo first, because he was a bit of a favourite of mine to be honest, But those are the 2 influences that he had. So obviously, if he's looking up to those 2 and he's got anything about him, hopefully he's going to be banging the goals in for us when he's called upon this season.
So moving on to the B team and a report that Saints B team beat Salisbury 2-1. Well, they've won again, Mark. That's 2 wins in pre-season. What's going on? That's 2 more wins than they had all last season.
Got a bit of news for you as well on that front, because the lad that was on trial from Bournemouth,
Jake Adams.
Yeah, he hasn't been given a contract.
Okay.
And also, the other lad that was playing up front for us, he also hasn't been given a contract, Mark. So I'll be interested to see what patchwork quilt they decide to put out, in the first league game for the B team.
It's interesting as well because Abdullah Lamit's first game for us on trial, he actually scored twice. So there we go. Anyway, interesting. So moving on to Southampton women, and Saints completing an unbeaten pre-season by winning against London Lionesses in their last game, Mark, or Millwall Lionesses, I think they used to be called, didn't they?
Yeah.
Pretty good pre-season they've had, haven't they?
Yeah, well, it was a good pre-season, mate. Actually, it was a draw. The game finished 2-2.
Sorry, yeah, it's 2-2. Sorry, Mum's.
So yeah, unbeaten. But no, look, listen, it was still a good result. The London City Lionesses were at one time in the Premier League. I think they're actually in the Championship now. But I would say it's a good result because that women's team has been established for some time. There were actually Millwall Lionesses before, and they have a good history within the women's game. So then they had the rebrand, obviously, of London City. But I mean, look, mate, I'm going into the season as far as the women are concerned, full of confidence. Expecting them to rob their league again. I have to say it. And hopefully this time next season they'll be playing Championship football.
So moving on to this weekend's game, the Southampton Football Club has teamed up with its official club supplier, Hummel, to collaborate on a specially designed rainbow shirt to raise awareness of inclusivity in sport. The rainbow shirts will be worn by the first team squad as a warm-up ahead of Saturday's game against Everton, kick-off at 3 p.m. This is to show support for the LGBTQ plus community and to help fight discrimination in football. Supporters can purchase limited edition shirts from the online Saints store ahead of the match, and match-worn shirts are being auctioned off following Saturday's game. Hummel launched the collaboration with Saints alongside Everton and Danish side Brøndby to celebrate the LGBTQ plus community as part of Copenhagen 2021 World Pride and the Euro Games taking place in the company's home country of Denmark. So there we go. That's ahead of the Everton game, Mark.
I mean, all I was going to say...
It's a very busy shirt.
Yeah, I mean, I was quite tempted and then I thought to myself, no, actually, it looks too much like a patchwork quilt, to be honest with you. But the other thing I was going to say, Mark, was before I just comment on the shirt thing, I meant to mention that Lucia Kendall, who, as you know, we've been following her and Millie Mott and, the England under 19s or under 18s, is it?
Under 19s,
training camp. But she was actually on the score sheet. She scored the first goal for Saints in that 2-2 draw. Anyway, getting back to this article, the thing that I kind of don't kind of get is why would they not have a little rainbow motif or something like that there on the shirt? Because obviously they're wearing the shirts during the warm-up, Mark, right? But I don't know. A sort of rainbow badge on the shirt would probably would have been a nicer touch, as the two teams are playing.
I've got a theory on this actually. I don't know if you remember or not. Manuel Neuer, the Germany keeper, was actually was looking at possibly getting in trouble with FIFA during Euro 2020 for actually wearing a rainbow armband, and they were actually looking at whether or not he should have been wearing it. So for me, I think that's the reason you're seeing warm-up shirts, not an actual badge on a shirt. I think it's something to do with that, which is wrong in all fairness. But I think they've obviously made the decision they want to put it
for me. Is I don't know why they would be looking at it, because the way I look at it is it's not political. It's a symbol of inclusion.
Yeah, I mean, in
how
fairness,
can a symbol of inclusion be?
Well, in fairness,
being.
In fairness, because it wasn't deemed to be political, I think you'll find that's why they let it slide, because they deemed it not to be political. If they'd deemed it to be political, he would have been told to remove it. But I think, basically, Hummel have obviously decided that, Pride is being held in Denmark. So World Pride's being held in Denmark, and they obviously, as a tribute to that, they want to do this warm-up shirt as opposed to a badge on the shirt. I think a badge on the shirt would have been a better idea, but it's what they've gone with. So, yeah, it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it gets the message across, but I just think it would have been nice to see both sides, with some sort of emblem on the shirt as they're playing the game, but maybe Premier League rules, and I'm only speculating here, I don't know for definite, listeners, but maybe Premier League rules didn't allow it,
Yeah, quite possibly.
But I'm really looking forward to the next article, Mark, because I hear inclusion is the name of the game with you this next article, because sadly, again, I was left out of any birthday celebrations. But apparently, I'm hearing a rumour that you're actually going to be doing the 5K walk. And is anybody sponsoring you?
No, unfortunately not. Well, I'm not technically walking, am I? Because I'm in my wheelchair, so it's not.
Well, it's still a 5K push. You know what I mean?
I'm going to
using energy.
Well, people would argue that a power wheelchair is not really using energy, but anyway.
Oh, right, you're going to cheat doing it then. You're not actually going to do it in a wheelchair. You're going to use your power chair.
So, you can join the Saints Foundation in celebration of their 20-year anniversary for their charity walk We March Together on Saturday, 9th of October, and walk as one through the city to celebrate 20 years of the foundation transforming lives across the community. The 5-kilometre route offers Saints fans a unique opportunity to look back at the history of their club. After a warm-up and welcome at Southampton Common, walkers will retrace the steps many fans will know well to the site of Saints' former home, the Dow, before stopping off at St Mary's Church, paying tribute to all 135 years of Saints history where it all began. The walk then reach its conclusion with a special celebration at St Mary's Stadium, with an opportunity for an amazing community to come together after what's been a challenging 18 months for everyone. All generations of family, young and old, are encouraged to come together for the march. You may choose to walk in memory of a loved one, to celebrate their life as a Saints fan, or recognise the support they received from Saints Foundation. You can sign up for just £10 for adults, £5 for children. In return, you receive a bespoke event t-shirt, medal upon completion, unique opportunity to walk our history with your family, friends, and maybe even some Saints fans. Or legends, I should say. I think it's a very worthwhile thing to do, Mark. Worthwhile cause, as we both know. I won't technically be able to walk it, but I will be contacting the club to find out if there's any way I can assist in the walk. Maybe I can carry a banner or something. Who knows?
I think you should do the 5K in your power chair, mate. We'll get a bit of sponsorship going and give the money to the Saints Foundation.
Well, it's still 5 kilometres in my chair. And that's no mean feat, trust me. With the cushion I've got on my chair, that's no mean feat at all.
Okay.
Yeah, my cushion isn't the most comfortable. So anyway, moving on to news that the Lionesses is to make a St Mary's return. Southampton will host the World Cup qualifier with North Macedonia on Friday the 17th of September. So Lionesses at St Mary's, Mark, brilliant.
I've got to say, Mark, this is fantastic news. The thing is if you want an opportunity to go and see, England, the Lionesses, the England's women's team at St Mary's, right, before the European Championships the Women's European Championships next summer, which, by all accounts, the way the tickets are selling, they seem to be some of the hottest tickets in town. And the other thing I would say is, obviously this is also a prelude to the fact that, a large majority of the Group A games, which is the group that England are in, are actually going to be played at St Mary's. So, it's a great opportunity to get out there, support the women, and support the national team. And as I say, a little bit of a taster before, the European Championships and the whole sort of circus comes to town. It's a little bit like an appetizer.
Absolutely.
Before the main meal.
Definitely. So that brings us to the end of the Saints Club News section. So we're going to take a very short break, and when we come back, we're going to do other football news.
It's the Two Marks, C&H, on the Two Saints Show, Fiesta 95 FM.
Welcome back, everyone. Other football news now. We're starting in the Premier League. Saka clapped by Spurs fans on return. Ferdinand backs West Ham takeover bid. Premier League COVID-19 status spot checks introduced for first game of the season. And then that takes us on to women's football, and we'll cover that shortly. So, other football news first, starting in the Premier League and starting with Saka clapped by Spurs fans on return. I'm not overly surprised by that, Mark, in all fairness, but good to see that support for him.
Exactly, especially whenever, a lot of the applause is coming from your North London rivals. I think also, Mark, that it follows up from apparently, when he got back into training from his holiday at the Euros. There was a board, basically a message board full of good luck messages to him, and we're behind you and stuff like that there. And I found it heartwarming to see it because at the end of the day, unfortunately, there's people out there that will be critical and go down the racial abuse line and stuff like that there, and it was just good to see the support that he was getting. And as I say, it's good to see that it was coming from, a rival as well as his own fans. So, as I say, good luck for the season. Saka really is what I would say there,
So moving on to West Ham United, Rio Ferdinand backs PAI capital takeover after London Stadium talks. A consortium interested in a takeover of West Ham, which is backed by former defender Rio Ferdinand, has held talks over the control of London Stadium. PAI Capital Limited met with club owners David Sullivan and David Gold, who insist they won't sell in February. Now talks with the London Legacy Development Corporation over the former Olympic Stadium have taken place. West Ham have leased their home from the Al Al DC since 2016. Former Queen's Park Rangers Chief Executive Philip Beard, who's fronting the bid, said in a statement, "We genuinely believe that the club stadium and Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park will thrive when the stakeholders are all pulling in the same direction. The only thing holding us back for now is the reluctance of the club's owners to engage in constructive and realistic negotiations. We believe they're willing to sell and hope we can make progress in coming weeks."
All I'm going to say about this, Mark, is, right, that this to me is a crazy situation, right? It's absolutely barking because you're going to have potentially a company that owns the stadium, right, and owns the Olympic Park effectively, right? The surroundings of the stadium, okay? And then that's offset against the fact that West Ham United is owned by different, by Sullivan and Gold. And the thing is they may believe that they want to sell. But I'm sort of sat there and I'm thinking, I don't think it's going to be that straightforward, but it's going to be a very strange situation with them. Obviously, these capital lot owning the grounds and the stadium, and the owners owning the football club.
It says it's not clear how PIA intend to make progress with their ideas, as BBC Sport understands the club has no plans for further negotiations with the consortium. And as the park itself loses money every time West Ham play a home game at the London Stadium, it's acknowledged a deal that did not involve the club is a non-starter. The stadium lost $29 million in 2019-20, and future losses annually have been estimated at between 8 and 10 million.
It's as I say, that is going to be an interesting situation. But I tell you,
if you give a stadium to a football club and you don't charge them rent, you're going to make a loss on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting from the point of view that it's two different owners. You got the people that own the stadium and the land around it, and then you've got the people that actually own West Ham Football Club, and I don't think Sullivan and Gold will sell that easily. But the other thing that I would say is, like, we've seen it all before where, a company comes in, and I'm not saying they don't have the best of intentions for West Ham and its supporters, but we've seen it all before where these people have come in, right? And the first thing that they do is they recruit a name and a face, and in this instance, it's the Ferdinand brothers. But, time will tell in terms of where we go from here with it. But I think this story's going to run and run, Mark, to be honest with you.
Yep, I'd agree with that. Yeah, I think it probably is in all fairness. Right, so moving on to the Premier League. COVID-19 status spot checks introduced for first games of the season. Premier League fans will face random spot checks of their COVID-19 status at grounds in the first few match days of the season, the league says. The top flight announced protocols for the new season, saying fans must be prepared to prove they're fully vaccinated or have had a negative lateral flow test in the last 48 hours. The league is preparing in case it becomes mandatory for all fans to have their coronavirus status checked, which it currently isn't. The 2021-22 season starts today, obviously with Brentford hosting Arsenal, which obviously we already know the result of. Spoiler alert. Fans will be able to show their COVID-19 status using the COVID pass through the NHS app or website. The league said it's working with clubs to introduce COVID-19 status checks in a staged way, so there's least disruption and maximum safety possible. Added fans would have to comply with a supported code of conduct.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, look, there's varying degrees of how this is being implemented, at least for the first few fixtures, until there's some sort of, blanket rule that everybody has to follow. The only comment I would make about this, Mark, is I get that, they want you to prove that you've had full vaccination, right? Or, a lateral flow test in the last 48 hours, but a negative lateral flow test, I should say. But the thing is lateral flow tests have been proved not to be reliable. I mean, I'm just throwing that one out there. But, so I don't know how... you know what I mean? How do you marry all this? It is a minefield, to be honest, mate. They will end up having to. I'll tell you what will happen. Right, they're going to end up having to throw their protocols out because it won't work. Lateral flow tests don't work, and as a result of that, they'll have to throw their protocols out the window, and that worries me a little bit. But there you go. Well, then people aren't going to safe or secure environments, then, are they? Probably not, but people would argue that they're being as safe and secure as they can when they're out in the street at the moment. So their argument would be, if you're outside at a football stadium, what's the difference? I can see where some people come from. I can see where others are coming from. I don't think there is a right or a wrong in this one. I think there's two sides to the coin. It's a matter of which side the coin lands on, I guess. Anyway, strange one. So I think we'll move on to women's football, because I think we spent more than enough time over COVID over the last 18 months. So, Euro 2022 Wembley final set to break attendance record. A record crowd is set to watch the Euro 2022 final, with more tickets sold than the previous highest attendance 11 months before the tournament starts. So far, 53,000 tickets have been bought for the final. The current record attendance for a Women's European Championship final at 41,302 was set at Euro 2013 when Germany defeated the host Sweden. More than 140,000 tickets have been sold already for Euro 2022, which will be held in England from the 6th to 31st of July 2022 across 10 stadiums. It just shows the growth for the women's game in Europe and worldwide. Absolutely. And especially in this country as we're hosting it, Mark, when you consider that, the women's version of the Premier League was only set up 10 years ago. And, even within those 10 years, it's come a hell of a long way. But I mean, I was cock a hoop when I read this story, to be honest with you, mate. Because it'll be brilliant to see, a full Wembley when the finals played. And as I alluded to in whenever we're talking about the England playing North Macedonia at St Mary's, it would appear that, even the group games and the quarterfinals, semi-finals, the hottest tickets in town, and I can't wait to get my hands, hopefully, on a few tickets you know.
Absolutely. So the Women's Super League opener between Everton and Man City will be the first shown on the BBC as part of a new broadcast deal. The BBC will show 22 live matches during the 21-22 season, with a number of minimum of 18 on BBC One or BBC Two. Goodison Park will host Everton versus Man City live on BBC One on Saturday, 4th September, the first game on network free-to-air TV. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Long overdue.
And obviously, also, just to say, the following weekend, you've got Chelsea Everton on BBC Two. Then on the 26th of September, you've got Manchester United against Chelsea, which is a 12:30 kickoff. Then on the 3rd of October on BBC Two, you've got Aston Villa taking on Arsenal. And then the last fixture to be announced so far is on the 9th of October at 1:30, and it's the Manchester Derby, Manchester United women against Manchester City women.
It certainly is. And fantastically well covered, Mark. Thank you very much. So that brings us to the end of that section, everybody. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll do Saints transfer gossip and Saints in the press. Welcome back, everybody. So Saints transfer gossip and Saints in the press. So two stories here. Leicester match 15 million asking price for 6'6" defender of West Ham target is. This is Yannick Vestergaard, who we now have had confirmed has passed his medical and has sealed his move to Leicester, Mark. And the following story is David Parkin's family raise money for the Saints Foundation, which is fantastic.
Spoiler alert there, you've just killed one of the articles for next week, but hey-oh. Anyway, yeah, so Yannick Vestergaard...
It's confirmed today, so everyone's got... If it's not really a spoiler, everyone kind of knows now.
I've got to be honest that yes, but the thing is, anyway, right, so getting on with the article, Yannick Vestergaard leaves the building. Now, that was definitely not a shocker at all. Again, just to remind everybody, he's in the last year of his contract. During the last year of your contract, and you don't sign another contract, you still get sold, doesn't matter who you are. And basically, Yannick has left the building, and he's probably quite happy about where he's off to.
So, moving on to the final story, which I think is far more important, to be fair. And this is the family of David Parkin, who recently passed away, have raised money for the Saints Foundation, which I think is absolutely fantastic, Mark.
Yes, so basically what happened was his sister, Linda, David had a extensive sports shirt collection, not just all sorts of different football clubs, obviously mainly Saints, but all sorts of different football clubs, all sorts of rugby shirts. Basically, Linda took the decision, seeing as David was a big part of Saints. I mean, he was one of the people responsible for at the Dale, setting up the Saints Supporters Club, which was run out of the Dale. So, you know, at the end of the day, yeah, he's obviously they made £1,000 and Linda's passed it on to the Saints Foundation. And I mean, it's good for it to happen. I mean, I just would have liked to have seen maybe something in David's memory, because I know there's already a brick at the stadium and stuff like that there, but very, very much, you know, a Saints man at heart, and I'm sure the Saints Foundation will put the money to good use.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't just stand there either, actually. Around £1,000 was raised towards David's funeral, more than £750 for Macmillan Cancer Support, and £1,700 for Teenage Cancer Trust. So close donations were also made to Two Saints Homeless Shelter in Southampton. Absolutely fantastic.
No, the Teenage Cancer Trust is something that was... Absolutely. I mean, anytime I used to speak to David, it was something that was always very close to his heart. And when he used to be selling off, because he had a wide array of clothes, mate, and every time he was selling off an item, you know, he would put it in the pot for the Teenage Cancer Trust.
And friend of David and member of the Facebook group, somebody we know very well, Mark Saints Archive, Leon Burton, helped organise the donation after being contacted by representatives of the Saints Foundation. He said David was such a passionate Saints supporter and always embraced the Saints Foundation. His sister Linda thought any proceeds made from selling his football shirts should go to the Saints Foundation. They also gave us complimentary tickets to watch Saints play Athletic Bilbao, which was a kind gesture. So well done to them, and obviously well done Leon for sorting that out. Good man. Right, well, that brings that part of the show to an end. So that's the very last section. So just to finish things off today, we're bringing you Saints Roundtable, which is our new feature. This is a preview we did with Nigel McCallan and Andrew Bartlett, just to finish things off today. So here it comes now. Hello everybody, welcome to our brand new feature, the Saints Roundtable. This can be featuring Saints fans this season, previews of games, etc. We're lucky enough to be joined by Andrew Bartlett of Midland Saints, and also Nigel McCallan, who's the steward on the away coaches.
I'm going to throw it open to you first, Andy. Basically, I want you to sort of tell me what you're expecting from the game. Obviously, speaking a little bit about Saints and also a little bit about maybe what we can expect from Everton. I mean, from a personal standpoint,
I must say I feel a lot more optimistic about going to Everton after what's been happening over the past couple of days than I was feeling. I've been going to Everton since 1980. I've been to an awful lot of matches, but have managed to miss the 2 times that Saints have actually won there. And I missed the League Cup tie as well when we won on penalties. The best I've seen us do there is, I think, a couple of 0-0 draws and a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, so I'm sorry to interrupt you, Andy, but do you think we should be going to Goodison? Because I'm exactly in the same boat as you. I've never been to the matches when Saints have won up there, so we're not a good omen.
No. Everton are not that good a team. They haven't been a good team since the late 80s. And yet we just can't get anything there.
I'm not sure, Nigel. Is Seamus Coleman still at Everton? Because he gives us nightmares whenever we're playing against him, to be honest.
I think he is. I do feel a little bit they are there possibly for the taking. But as Andy said, it does seem to be a bogey ground for us. We're traditionally slow starters to a season. If you want me to make a prediction, I'm going for a low-scoring draw at the moment.
Well,
I do say that.
The one thing I wanted to ask you was, I mean, I actually think the acquisitions that Everton have made are not actually that bad because they've gone for a bit of experience. Because normally they'd be signing. I mean, they signed Ben Godfrey last season. And this season, they've gone with Townsend, Begovic, and, Damari Gray. Damari Gray was somebody that we have been interested in for about the last, 6 years. I think we can go back as far as January 2015, if I remember rightly, was the first time. Dare I say, he's very similar to a certain Nathan Redmond who plays for Saints.
But exactly. Of the signings that Everton have made, I'd have taken Begovic. He's a step up from the keepers that we've got. But he's gone to Everton to sit on the bench, whereas he could have been playing for us.
So, Nigel, you said that you're kind of going for a low-scoring. Is it a low-scoring draw you're looking at, or are we going to nick it?
I'm going to go. If we can get a goal up there, we've got a chance. Trouble is, we've just made 2, I think, really good signings today, but are they necessarily going to play? I think they're more, at the most, I think they're going to be on the bench, which means we're probably relying on Shea Adams and another. Is James Ward-Prowse going to come straight in? Suddenly you're losing a little bit of creativity, aren't you, from dead ball situations, corners, free kicks, etc. I think at the end of the day, we need to sort of try and sneak a goal and then we stand a chance. But I'll go back to, I think Everton are probably reasonable defensively, given who their manager is.
Yeah. Personally, I'll be doing cartwheels if we come away with a 1-1 draw. And I think we could do it. It depends whether Ralph has learnt some lessons and is prepared to be more flexible and pragmatic. you almost suggest this might be going to park the bus in and play Adams up front, flood the midfield.
Just looking at things, I mean, for me personally, I wouldn't play Perot, funnily enough, or Perot, whatever his name is, because I'd actually like to play Liverento and Kyle Walker-Peters together, and both can play left and right side, you know, even though they're both predominantly right full-backs, but they can both play on the left side. I mean, Kyle Walker-Peters has played on the left side for the England under-21 team, so no reason. I just think Perot, for me, I think he looks like a good crosser of the ball, but I think he still needs to get up to speed for me. And it's only reports that I was getting back from friends about Saturday, but they were jumping up and down about Liverento. So
I think the good thing, Mark, is that because both of them can play by flanks, it gives Ralph the opportunity within the game to swap them over as well, just to give him something different to think about. Because Everton won't be able to settle them, will they? If he has the ability to swap the fullbacks over, it doesn't give them a chance to settle into a pattern. So that might actually work to Saints' advantage.
Anyway, gentlemen, it comes to that point. I'm going to tie you both down and ask you for predictions. So, Andy first, what are you going for?
1-0.
Nigel, what are you predicting?
I'm not going to copy Andy. I think it's going to be a draw. I'm going to go for 0-0, which I'll be very happy with.
Right, Mr. Carter, what are you predicting?
I'm going for a 1-1 draw.
And I'm going to go for a 1-0 Saints win because I'm not there.
but Andy and myself are.
Yeah.
and all I'm going to say is thanks for joining us. It's much appreciated, both of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks very much. Much
right,
appreciated.
no problem.
Bye for now.